Veronica from Mini Urban Farm, and I raise chickens for both meat and eggs. In this video, I'm going to share with you my exact costs for raising heritage breed chickens for meat and if it's actually worth it. So first off, I want to acknowledge that raising chickens, any type of chickens for meat or eggs, is a time-consuming process, all right? It involves a lot of energy, a lot of time, and sometimes even a lot of money, all right? So I'm going to share with you why I think that everyone should be raising chickens for meat and eggs and the surprising cost of actually raising your own birds. So let me start you off with some quick facts. Number one, I raise heritage chickens, all right? These are not your normal meat chickens. If you go to Tractor Supply or the garden center or wherever it is that you see birds for sale, chickens for sale that is, or online, these are not meat chickens, all right? These are not intended to be grown out in 8 weeks or 12 weeks, whatever the case is with meat chickens, your Cornish cross chickens. Those are not the type of chickens that I choose to raise, right? We raise heritage chickens. They are Plymouth Barred Rock chicks, and they take a lot longer to grow out than your average meat chicken. All right, I'll get into a little bit more about why we've chosen to do that later towards the end of this video. Number two, I keep roosters so that I can raise out my own chicks. Sometimes that works out and sometimes life gets in the way, all right? The power goes out, the incubator stops. Lots of things have happened that prevent us from hatching our own chicks, which means that sometimes we do end up buying chicks from the hatchery. We try not to do this, but sometimes in life you can't prevent that. So I have included in this video 2 different breakdowns, all right? The first breakdown is for raising our own chicks that we have hatched ourselves, and then the second breakdown is the cost to raise chicks that you've gotten from the hatchery, all right? These are still the same types of heritage breed chickens that take the exact same amount of time as the ones that we hatch out ourselves. Number 3, all right, we process all of our own chickens. We do not send them out to be processed. We don't send them out to a local butcher or anyone else to perform that for us, all right? If you want to see exactly how I am able to butcher my birds, I will leave that link in the description bar below, so you can go and check that out if you so choose. Number 5, we butcher out our chickens at about 5 months old, all right, give or take. Sometimes this ends up being a little bit more if the weather is bad, or if the birds are looking, a little bit scrawny, or whatever the case is, but on average, our birds get processed at about 5 months of age, all right? And lastly, number 5, I am not including any sort of infrastructure costs in this list, all right? I'm assuming that if you are processing your own chickens and choosing to raise your own chickens, you already have everything already set up for them, all of the coops and the waters and the feeders and all of that stuff, so I'm not taking that into account, all right? There is a whole separate set of costs for actually buying all those supplies, but if you're already raising chickens, you probably already have those. So that is not on this list as far as costs go. All right, so how much does it actually cost us? Now, I'm going to put everything on the screen here so that you guys can follow along with the numbers and see if it makes sense, the budget breakdown, all of that for yourself, all right? So first off, you need the actual birds, all right? You cannot raise chickens unless you have the chicks to start off with and raise them until they are butchering size, all right? So how much do the actual birds cost? Now, we choose to hatch our own. If you do this yourself, it is much cheaper than buying your own birds, of course. If you have hens and roosters and you have the appropriate number of hens per rooster, all right, which usually ends up being around 10 hens per rooster, then you will likely have fertilized eggs. Now, you can take those fertilized eggs, stick them in an incubator with, some of the other steps that is involved in that. I do have a video of actually hatching out chickens on my chicken playlist. You can go and check that one out as well. But if you hatch them out yourself, then 21 days later, you should have a whole bunch of little baby chicks. So for this, I'm going to reference some of my numbers here, which I have on my phone, all right? It costs about 10 cents per day to run my specific incubator, all right? So for over the course of 21 days, that is about $2.10 for the whole time it takes to hatch a batch of chicks. All right, of course, I'm not just putting one egg in there, all right? There are multiple eggs in the incubator or else it would just be a complete waste of space. 41 eggs fit in my incubator, all right? So if I divide the $2.10 by 41 birds, all right, because your objective is to hatch all of those 41 birds, then that gives me about 5 cents per bird, all right? 5 cents per chick, all right? If I were to buy my eggs from the hatchery, I'd be paying $1.50 per chick, all right, which isn't too bad, all right? You add the shipping and that comes out to about $2.25 per chick for the same types of heritage breed chicks, all right? So you can see how much of a difference that is. 5 cents versus $2.25. You're already starting off with much better odds if you are hatching your own birds out. The next thing you're going to need is food and water. All right, so let's take water. I am not going to include water in this list as a cost, all right, because first of all, we use rainwater, and if you have a big barrel that you can, grab water from the top of a chicken coop, all right, hint, hint, which is what we do, that is an excellent system. We do not pay for water. If you are on city water, you are probably spending pennies, all right, to water your birds. So it is a negligible cost and we're not including it. And if you are on well, like we are, all right, in the case that we, dry up with the rain and we don't have any rain for our birds, we're on well water at the new property where our chickens live. And so the well is paid for and we don't really pay a water bill unless the well breaks or something, which, is a 1 in however many years chance. So water, I'm not accounting for in this scenario. Now food is a completely different story. That is where the majority of your costs are going to be when raising chickens for meat. Now, I do have some really good tips on reducing your food costs, all right, because food gets quite expensive, especially with the cost of feed going up, with everything else going up as well. Stay to the end of the video for some of those tips on how to reduce the amount of feed that we're able to feed our chickens. All right, but overall, in general, we buy 50-pound bags of feed. Each of those bags costs about $22, all right? That is for the meat bird crumbles, right? So if you're raising chickens for meat, you have to feed them the specific protein ratioed out, all right? I think it's something like 20 to 22% protein per feed ratio, whatever that ends up being, all right? But you want a high protein feed in order to feed your chickens. So that is going to be about $22 per bag divided by 50, which ends up being about 44 cents per pound of feed. All right, and we're talking about the pounds of feed because that's important when it comes to how much your chickens are actually going to eat. Okay, so I've done the math already. For the first 8 weeks of a chicken's life, all right, so the first 2 months, this little baby chick, super fluffy and cute, all right, they're gonna eat about 8 pounds of food total, all right? So each one of them, each baby chick, up until the time they're 2 months old, is gonna eat 8 pounds of feed. All right, that is about $3.52 for the first 2 months of the chicken's life. All right, so that is, let's put that number aside for a minute, that is $3.52. All right, if we butcher out our chickens at 5 months, all right, 5 months minus the 2 months we've already accounted for, that leaves 3 months to account for. All right, as each bird grows, all right, they will eat about a 1/4 pound of food per day, all right? So over the next 3 months, that means they're gonna eat 21 pounds of feed, all right? That's a lot more than the first 2 months, all right? That's the rest of the chicken's life, right? If we're butchering at 5 months, 21 pounds of feed, before that they're eating 8 pounds of feed, the 21 pounds of feed times 44 cents per pound, that is equal to $9.24 for those 3 months, all right? $9.24 for the 3 months, plus the original $3.52 for the first 8 weeks of the bird's life. That's the total of the bird's life. We're getting $12.76 for chicken feed for the 5 months the bird is alive. Now, if we hatch our own chicks, all right, remember those eggs that we put in the incubator not too long ago? If we hatched our own chicks and we spent 5 cents for each bird, all right, that is gonna be a total of $12.81 per bird, all right? If you bought the birds from a hatchery, it's gonna be a little bit more expensive. You're going to get a total of $15.01 per chicken. Now, as you can see, I've gone ahead and found a couple of different options for free-range organic chicken online, all right? Some of these are much more expensive than others, but overall, even if you buy the hatchery chicks, you're at $15.01. That is still significantly cheaper than the cost of a free-range whole organic chicken that you're gonna buy from anywhere else. But I know what you're thinking. That $12.81 or the $15.01, depending on which option you went, hatching chickens or buying chickens, all right, that is still probably a lot more than you're gonna go and find at, Walmart for a whole chicken, all right? Those $5 chickens is a better deal, you would think, than the chicken that you raise and butcher yourself, spending hours and hours laboring over these chickens, making sure they don't get eaten by predators, making sure they have water in the summer, making sure that they are, mite-free and lice-free and all this other stuff that you have to do to protect your chickens. So why on earth would anybody spend all of this time, money, and effort, all right, to raise your own meat chickens? Well, I'll tell you why we chose to do it, all right, and why we continue to choose this option for our family. If you go to the grocery store, all right, and for some reason, all right, they are out of chicken, like they have been in the very recent past, all right? If they're out of food, you and your family do not get to eat, all right? If they're out of everything else, you are not going to be able to eat. I can go out to my flock of chickens and I know how to butcher a chicken. I know how to prepare the chicken. I know how to break down the chicken. I know how to feed my family, all right? If you are getting chickens, baby chicks from a hatchery, and they run out of chicks, you will be in the same position as if you were going to the grocery store for your food. That is why we chose to raise heritage breed chickens. All right, I have an entire list on heritage breed chickens. I will leave that list below. All right, it links to a blog post, the best dual purpose chickens. All right, a lot of them are heritage breed chickens. And we chose to do that so that we can control our food supply. All right, that is something super important to us, because if you are around my age, you probably very recently have lived through an instance where you weren't able to find food at the grocery store. I know that if I have my own food supply here, I can hatch out my own eggs, I can put them in the incubator, I can raise my own chicken, and then I can butcher it for my table. My family is set. I don't have to worry about where my food is coming from. Now, if you're asking why we don't raise Cornish cross chickens, all right, the traditional meat chickens that you find, right, you go to the hatchery and you order meat chickens, they get raised a lot quicker. Oftentimes, I think it's like 8 weeks or 12 weeks, somewhere in between there, that you're able to butcher them out. The reason we don't raise Cornish cross or Freedom Rangers or any of those is that those are hybrid chickens, all right? You cannot take those eggs and stick them in an incubator and get the same type of chicken. You might be able to eventually get eggs from that chicken if they live long enough. Remember, they are meant to be butchered at about 8 to 12 weeks. They oftentimes have a lot of problems if they live longer than that, all right? If they do live longer than that and you're able to get some eggs from them in the unlikely scenario and incubate those eggs, you'll probably not be getting the same type of chicken from that egg, because they are a cross, right? Cornish cross. They do not have the same genetics, and you'll likely not be getting the same chicken that you originally got, what you were signing up for, all right? So we chose to raise chickens that we know are able to hatch out the same type of chicken if we put the eggs in the incubator. And lastly, I believe wholeheartedly that being able to raise your own food, being able to raise your own meat, being able to process chickens, cull them, butcher them, serve them for your family, that is a very valuable skill, all right? A lot of people are not able to do that. A lot of people think that chicken comes from the package in the grocery store, all right? I know that if ever we don't have food in the grocery store, all right, I am able to provide food for my family. I know how to butcher a chicken. The kids know how to butcher a chicken. My husband knows how to butcher a chicken. Even though he doesn't enjoy it, he can still do it, all right? And we can still feed our family. So for me, in the end, it is completely worth it. Now, I did tell you that towards the end of this video, I was gonna share some tips on reducing the amount of feed that you're feeding the chickens, all right? So here it goes. Number one, the way that we are able to reduce the most amount of feed is by letting our birds run around, all right? We open the coop, we let them out, and they're able to free range, not all the time, all right, because our house is still under construction and there's some workers there sometimes, but as often as we can, we do let them out of the coop. That does two things. Number one, they're able to find their own food in the form of leaves and bugs and all the stuff that they scratch and peck around for outside of the coop. And two, they're not just bored inside the coop, and what do they do when they're bored? They're just eating all day long, all right? So we're able to reduce a lot of the feed for them that way, number one. Number two, the second biggest way that we're able to decrease our cost of feed a lot is by feeding them kitchen scraps, all right? Whatever we do not eat, whatever we do not finish, any leftovers that we're not saving for later, goes into a chicken bucket, all right? It has a lid, we put it in the refrigerator so it stays fresh, and then at the end of the day or in the morning, whenever it is, we go out to collect our eggs, we just take that with us and we dump it all out, and they are more than happy to eat that. In fact, they prefer that to their own feed like 100% of the time. All right, so that includes things like pasta, that includes things like chicken meat, all right? They can eat chicken. If we ever have lasagna, if we have anything like actual food, then we just serve it to them. There are a few things that they can't eat. They're not supposed to eat like onions and garlic and stuff like that, but overall, we're not too worried about that. We feed them the majority of what we eat, with very few exceptions, and they do just fine, all right? So that is a huge way that we're able to reduce their overall feed cost. Number three is garden scraps, all right? We raise a garden, we keep a garden, And so anytime that I am pulling out leaves, all right, if there's things that are covered in aphids or bugs or whatever it is, chickens love that, all right? They will eat all the caterpillars, they will eat all the aphids, they will eat all of that stuff that you don't want in your garden. So I simply remove all the garden waste and I just give it to them, all right? Sometimes if I'm, turning over the garden for, spring planting or fall planting, whatever that is, and we still have things that are alive and thriving in the garden, but I just want to plant out something else, I will take that, put it in their coop, and they go insane for that, all right? And number 4, you could grow things specifically for them, all right? You could grow fodder, you could grow pumpkins, and you can grow squash, and you can grow corn, and you can grow a whole bunch of things, all right? Especially leafy greens, they grow super fast, all right? And my birds absolutely love kale and arugula, just like I do. And so you could grow those things and maybe just grow a little bit extra and feed them that, and they will eat that, and it will reduce their food costs. And the 5th way that you're able to reduce food costs is by outsourcing, all right? And what I mean by outsourcing is even if you don't have a lot of kitchen scraps that go to waste, other people probably do. If you ask neighbors or friends and family and they're getting rid of a whole bunch of this stuff, they have lots of waste that just goes in the trash can. If you give them a little container, they will probably be able to fill that up for you, and then you can go and give that to your birds. All right, this is along the same lines of maybe going to a local restaurant or a local grocery store and seeing if they're getting rid of anything, table scraps or things like that. There's a lot of city ordinances along with going to other businesses and getting food back from them. So that's one I haven't ventured too far into yet. However, I have a lot of family that has extra kitchen scraps and extra food scraps and leftovers, and whenever I ask for them, they just hand them over and we're able to feed our birds with that, all right? If you guys enjoyed this video, which hopefully you did, then you will probably enjoy my entire chicken playlist. I will leave that here on the screen somewhere, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.